Hello and welcome to another episode of the discussion. And because this is June, it's National Pride Month, so I guess I'm by myself. Okay, I'll see myself out. But anyways, welcome to today's discussion. Today's episode, Lunar Whispers. Ready, set, begin. So Lunar Whispers is an internet story. I was about to say international for some reason. That basically involves a werewolf falling in love with a boy. Yep, this is one of those stories. Yeah, nice start to this month. Really nice. Okay, so exactly how are we going to talk about this? Well, first, spoilers, obviously, because, we're talking about a story here. I mean, granted, it's 88 chapters, so I'm pretty sure 100% of you are just going to skip this part, but please go watch and read the story in the description below. Please, it will mean a lot to the creator, Cyan, who spent a lot of time making these stories and chapters that are really good. And then we'll cover Souls for Satan, which is the story that came out at the same time. And then we'll also cover the sequel, Golden Prodigies, when it finishes updating in a few months. So anyways, with that said, please check it out. You can cover this video whenever day you're done, so... Okay, let's begin. So, by already starting off, we're going to start off with the basic things. So first off, the characters are Jacob, Hunter, William, Scott, and Grace. Eventually, we have Jacob, who realizes that he is starting to be fallen in love with a werewolf. And before this, Jacob had voices in his head, and he never knew what it was, as it read his thoughts, but he could read their thoughts. And eventually it is revealed that Hunter, who is William's friend that he meets on the first day of college, that he can talk to him during a mind link because they're connected by lunar love, which is explained in the story. It's explained that that alpha wolves they can't choose their mate. Like, once they get to a certain age, their scent stands out of everyone, and they can identify and talk through their head and identify them easily. So that's why their bond has to connect, otherwise their feelings are gonna get hurt or, sort of heartbroken. Basically, it's like you try to affection in a way. So Jacob realizes this, and then also realizes that he's a werewolf, and surprisingly he takes it sort of well, but he doesn't, because he's still hurt and blames Hunter for everything, for him going crazy over the years. But eventually they start to fall in love, and then Jacob gets attacked by a rival pack, and then he is revealed to be a werewolf because he grows taller, and then he starts to develop his werewolf powers, and eventually he turns into a werewolf as soon as Scott walks into his room, his father, and then he takes it well. And then this was revealed in Golden Prodigies, but he doesn't really tell anybody. So they go to the Raisin's house, which is Hunter's parents, and they explain that it's part of the lunar cycle, and that he could possibly be the god of lightning, and the only god that is in the UK, because his name's actually Jacoda, and coincidence is that he's the god of lightning and the god of werewolves. That's why he got taller when I said so, and along with that, when he became a werewolf. So he then starts to develop his lightning powers, and then is revealed that his mate, Hunter, is now the guardian of the god. So, and whenever there are other werewolves around, basically they all bow down to him. Eventually during this time, Grace, the mother, basically keeps things from their family. To cut it short, basically, there is an uncle by the name of V in the story, and then their son Vic is actually the part of a rival pack that is against Hunter. And during that time, they get revenge, but instead, Jacoda and Hunter basically plan this barbecue, inviting them over and their mother to see what happens, as, spoiler alert, Nathan is actually the brother of Grace, but nobody ever knew, because she is one of those people that say werewolves are, not supposed to exist, so they should remain dead, or, they're not normal, basically. So she slaps Chakotay. She slaps him right there in front of everybody, and they all just panic. They all get mad at her. And the reason for this is because she's been trying to keep her son someone she wants, and that she doesn't want him to build up all this courage. That's why he's so fragile and sensitive, because she's been keeping him from the outside world, that he's not really used to anything. He's never had any friends before. He hasn't really hung out with anybody. That's why at the beginning of the story, he's just a lonely boy with his brother and his mother, who cares a lot, babies him, while the father actually does make an effort to accept him for who he is. So eventually, Grace leaves. She leaves them behind. And, well, because it's only Scott running the house, they move in with the Raisins. But since their house is burned by the rival pack again, because they infiltrated their house a long time ago, they get a new house of mansion. And then William, the brother of Chakotay, and the beta wolf Hunter are only left in his pack, and they start to develop a bond. Spoiler alert, it does go somewhere, actually. But overall, Lunar Whispers was actually one of the best stories I ever read. When I found it, it was at 60 chapters. So I read 20 chapters the first day, but I was like, I can't wait any longer. So I read 5 more chapters during the night, and then I read another 25 more chapters, and then it started updating while I was getting close. I was like, no, no, no. So I read faster, and I made it, and then, you know, constantly saw updates from it. Lunar Whispers is honestly a really developed story. I love how everything has an explanation. I love how it doesn't rush things. I mean, sure, granted, some of the ships have been, you know, pushed, but I love it. I love the idea of having this character who we see as somewhat as a main character, who doesn't really know who they are, but is revealed that they aren't exactly who they think they are, how they're different, and that they can't cope with it, but eventually they realize they do. It's so awesome. I love it. It's very well developed, and spending all that time waiting for updates each chapter is honestly worth it. I really like how you're adding new characters and their personalities, and then adding things and foreshadowing that is in other stories. Like, if it's anything for me, I love werewolf stories, but if it's actually well developed, or it's not one of those, oh, I don't want you types of things, but eventually I had to get used to you, and I love you somehow, then let's take a step back, because I don't like those kinds of stories. They're kind of they're not really what I actually think is right for a werewolf story, or more or less a fictional story, but there's not really much to say, but it's a really developed story. If you've continued watching this without reading it, yeah, I'm pretty much spoiled it for you, but please go read it. It's really worth your time. It really is. Unless you're not into that whole type of thing, then I guess not everything's meant for you, huh? So, thank you all so much for watching this. If you liked it, of course, leave a like in the description below. If you have any stories for me, or any discussion topics for me to talk about, let me know in the comment section below. You'll also be featured. Make sure you leave a like, obviously, like I just said so. Subscribe if you haven't, share the video, and like every time I say, and by the way, I have like 3 days of school, technically 4, but I have a field trip, so summer is getting close, everybody, and new stuff is along the way. So as always, and as every time I'll say, I will see y'all next time. Peace.